Parents strongly caution the following programs are intended for mature audiences over the age of 18. These programs may contain some material that many parents would not find suitable for children and may include intense violence, sexual situations, coarse language, and suggestive dialogue.
All right, and happy Tuesday night. It is Tuesday, right? Yeah, it's Tuesday night.
It is Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday night. We have Mick here from Corners of Sanctuary. How you doing, brother?
All right, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're just gonna jump right into the fucking shit show.
Well, let's let CB start it off before you get it into the heavy metal all music question and everything else like that. Come on, bro. Like give him some time to ease into it.
Okay. All right. So what is something that you do on stage that makes you feel unstoppable or invincible?
Not fall over.
That's a good one.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. And I'm a little older than I may look, or maybe I don't know. But sometimes I'm a little wonky at this age. Sometimes on stage, so I try to wear good shoes and don't move around so much. Those days of headbanging for me are way past. You know what I mean? They're not good for your neck and spine anyway. But it really knocks your equilibrium off. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it's a good thing I don't have hair then.
I understand that. I understand that. I mean, I'm a little bit. I'm older than what I look. I mean, I may not be up to your age, but I'm up there, and I play and the whole head bang and all that shit, and then you get the fucking head rush, and yeah, I've fallen off a stage quite. And it's very embarrassing. Very embarrassing. Yeah, so if you've never done it, I commend you, sir, for never falling off a stage. Because I have.
Yep. We just talked about that story too.
Yeah, I've had to tell that story 50,000 times. So if you could go on tour with any three bands of your choice, dead or alive, who would you go on tour with?
Definitely Judas Priest.
Okay. Popular answer.
Kiss.
Another good one.
And I don't know. Maybe so if I had to go back in the time, I don't know. Maybe do something with I don't know, Bon Jovi back then in the 80s. You know, that tour that Cinderella did with them when they got signed. That was a pretty big tour that covered a lot of ground, and they were big shows. So I would definitely, especially from my era, that would be something cool.
I did not expect Bon Jovi to come out of your mouth, but I commend you on that.
So do
Well,
I.
listen, I attended a lot of those shows back then, and they were massive shows. You know, the divide today between what's heavy metal, what's rock, what's hard rock, what's classic, all that kind of stuff. It didn't exist back then. Like you could listen to Slayer and be a Bon Jovi fan, and listen to Testament and listen to Poison, and nobody really cared. There wasn't a divide like, oh, you listen to this, so we can't listen to you, and so on and so forth. Because all those bands were coming through the club scene here in Philadelphia. So, like, you know, one of the major venues of the time here in Philly was the Empire, and they would have all those bands come through. Like Slayer played here, and I mean, Overkill was here, and then of course you've seen Cinderella come through here, White Lion and stuff. Sometimes before they even really made it big, Rat came through here. So it was just like the music that you were into, and everybody just enjoyed it. Now there's such a divide. It's a little different, and but yeah, listen, let me tell you something. If Justin Bieber called us tomorrow and said, "Can you go on tour with us?" Hell right, I don't give a crap. I mean, you're going to be playing in front of massive amounts of people. They may not like us, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't play.
So yeah, that's why I tell everybody. There's a lot of people that are like, "Well, who'd you tour with?" I'm like, "Shit, if I want to maximize, like, get as many people to hear me all in one shot, I'm gonna say I want to go with Taylor Swift, Post Malone, and Snoop Dogg."
There you go, man.
And I play metal, but you can guaranteed that motherfucker is going to be sold out. And it's going to be wall-to-wall people.
That's right.
Everybody may not like you, but I guarantee you there's going to be some metalheads that are out there, because there's a lot of metalheads that do like hip-hop and like Post Malone. They may not like Taylor Swift, may not give two fucks about Taylor Swift, but there's going to be people out there that do like metal, and you'll be seen by a shit ton of people if you were to fucking play with them.
That's right. That's right. Hey, listen, even if you get bad press, it's better than no press.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everything seems to work out there. You get enough bad press, all of a sudden you get a book, a TV deal, and a restaurant. So, I mean, it all works out.
That is true. That is true.
And you never know who's going to be there. You might find a brand new audience that loves your shit.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Slash could be at one of those shows, and then all of a sudden they need somebody to open up for Guns N' Roses. So why not?
That would be insane.
This is very true. This is very fucking true. I mean, and obviously, like us older, I don't give a fuck about the whole like genre thing. Like, I don't. I understand where they're going with it. Like, I can grasp it. I just think it's fucking stupid. Like, just play music. I mean, if you like it, you think it sounds good, there's going to be somebody out there that likes it. Yeah. As long as you put it out there, it's kind of like the whole, like, if you build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. Like, it will. It might take you a minute to find your target audience for the type of music that you're playing. But to me, like, metal's metal. You know, hard rock is hard rock, and they all kind of derive from the same goddamn fucking place. Yeah. And they all have the same, you know, foundations that fucking built them. Just, you know, there's differences, but it all still came from the same fucking place.
I agree.
At the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So that's why I love going to festivals that are like multi-genre, and there's like because it's like you could pick and choose. It's like a goddamn fucking buffet of bands, and depending on your mood throughout the fucking day, well, how drunk am I, and what do I want to fucking really get down on?
Right.
And you can go and choose and listen to all these different types of metal throughout the whole entire day. So why limit yourself to like one fucking genre? Do the whole goddamn smorgasbord.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, if you had your choice and you weren't playing hard rock or heavy metal, is there any other genre that you would consider playing?
I mean, I think that, what's now called or considered adult contemporary. I think that, I like Neil Diamond. I think he's a great songwriter, great performer. I mean, if if most people don't know who he is, at this stage of the game, if you went back to 1972, he was like, the biggest thing ever. And it's kind of like when people, if you talk about the Osmonds today, people are like, the Osmonds, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, but in 71 to 74, they were like the biggest thing. Like they were like a Taylor Swift type of thing, right? Worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I would like to do a little bit more of that. Like if I, because it's better on the ears. My goal has always been to be more of a songwriter than an actual musician. Like I don't consider myself a musician. I just so happen to play guitar. But I always kind of gravitated more towards the songwriting aspects than the technical aspects of playing guitar, which has been a problem over the years. But I've accepted that a long time ago. But I think I would go into that. And, I never, ever was a country fan. I don't know if I'm a country fan now, but I do have a better appreciation for it, understanding where it came from and how it's evolved. And on a commercial sense, what it's done for, to use the term genre, what it's done for itself in the last 25, 30 years has been, I don't think that any style of music has been able to do that for itself. I mean, basically came from backwoods mountains type stuff. I mean, blues didn't even get that. I mean, that's where that came from, right? Back porches and stuff like that. But it had to transform into forms of rock and roll to become some level of mainstream. However, country did it all on its own. I mean, in the early 90s, when that whole new country, the pre-new country, right, before it actually became new country, started really, that to me, that would be interesting to try. I've actually tried my hand at it a couple times. It's just, when you're looked at as a metal guy, other guys look at you like, come on, like, you probably can't even spell your name, let alone try to write a country song. But
I don't know, if you go through enough divorces, anyone can write a country song.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Well, I mean, here pretty soon we're gonna end up having a song where my truck left me. I mean, like all the electric cars and everything else like that. I mean, that actually plays into a question of mine. Do you feel like it is better now, or would you have appreciated of things being it back then?
As far as the music industry is concerned,
the music industry, I think the music industry in itself, self-contained, has always sucked. It's always been cutthroat, and it's always been artist last. What I do like about today is it's a little bit more instantaneous. Like if we did something as a band, you can quickly see it, and there is an audience for it much faster. But the problem is there's an oversaturation, and you can quickly get lost. And the problem with that is bands have to constantly keep putting content out, constantly, and it's not just music anymore. You got to do all this visual stuff and whatever, and not everybody's geared towards that, right? And if you're doing all that kind of stuff, then you're not allotting the time to be better songwriters and better, players and crafting better material, better albums. Where the album has fallen, and that's a prime example of why the album has kind of fallen out of favor to singles and EPs. I think that playing out and being in a band in those late 80s, early 90s, there was something, because, there was, for most venues, for club nights, you had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, today, you have maybe Friday, definitely Saturday, but you can't guarantee the people are going to come out. And that's because of the oversaturation. So, I mean, there's good and bad with it. I think that at the end of the day, we're a band that likes to play out, right? That's kind of like what this is all about. I would rather go back into time and have less exposure like we have now worldwide, but have that connection that we're missing with the audience, and how a band developed itself that way.
Okay.
I like that, and I'm with you. there's pros and cons of the whole thing, and we've talked to a lot of bands about it. As far as like making money nowadays, that's gone. If you think you're going to be in a metal band, especially metal hard rock, if you think you're going to be in a metal hard rock band, you're going to be a millionaire, you're fucking nuts. Don't quit your day job, because it's just not going to happen. Not unless you're a trust fund kid and you've got millions of dollars to fucking back up your band and create, all this fucking crazy shit and put yourself on tour and pay for all these tours and all this shit. It's just not going to fucking happen. There's just no way. Back then, it was harder to find bands, but you were able to make that money because it was that way. But now it's become so competitive because everybody is now on the same playing level. Everything from your small local band to your regionals to your nationals, essentially, you're on the same playing level. You all have the same tools at your fingertips as everybody else does. The only thing that differentiates is the money. That's the only thing. So it is, like you said, the market is so fucking oversaturated that you've got to be fucking amazing for anybody to fucking find you.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're just going to float along.
Well, like you said, if you don't have that juggernaut of cash behind you, or someone like nowadays, like you're getting, you're being force fed. I mean, I think you've always been force fed certain artists because that's part of what the labels and companies producers did to develop that artist, right? They put them out there. It's like buying. It's like the shelf space at the supermarket, right? You have your top shelf items, your mid, and then that bottom of the rung stuff that, like, if you don't eat by Friday, you're probably going to have the runs or something. But now, because it's kind of like it's everywhere, we're being like, say, just and again, I don't have anything against the artist or anything, but I'm using as an example. Like out of nowhere, that Jelly Roll guy comes out, right? And we're being force fed him, whether you like him or not. Then all of a sudden he's inducting Ozzy and like there were so many other artists they could have picked, not only for Ozzy, but for the metal community, right? Like you want the metal community to embrace that, or the old school community, whatever you want to call it. Because Ozzy transcends just metal because he's come through the ranks over the years, and he's more of a household name, and he's not, the scary devil that bites off the heads of bats and young children like people thought he was in '82. He's just another guy. So people appreciate that. But we're being force fed this guy. So after a while, people go, well, maybe I should listen to this guy like everybody else is, or here he is again on my feed, or he keeps showing up in my Spotify playlist, or whatever the case is. So that's what's happening, because he has a story for whatever that reason, whatever that routine is, and he's got a juggernaut of money behind it. Now, whether he sold his soul somehow, or he signed his name to a deal that he's never going to get out of, that's, whatever. It's the same old story. But that's the difference between the bands that are in the trenches that play, just like you said, the playing field's been leveled because of the internet and what we have at our disposal in terms of recording and distribution and marketing and promotion. And actually, some of these people that aren't, quote, professionals actually do it better than the pros. But they just don't have the money to fund the that model. So it's tough.
It's more or less it's the funding the tours, because that's where you're going to, a lot of times that's where you're going to fucking maximize your money.
Right.
Is merch sales.
Yes.
And
glorified t-shirt salesman.
Right. But it's so hard because you've got to have that money to do the tour, and then you got to have that money to do the marketing. And if you don't have both, you're not going to pull anybody in. So if you're not bringing people into the show, you're not selling t-shirts, you're not making money. And
It's hard. It's hard to do it. I mean, nowadays. I mean, especially when people are, as you said, being force fed different things all the time. I mean, it's crazy. It really is. But you're up, CB.
All right. So as far as inspiration goes, is there something that you do to find more inspiration for your songs, or something new, or something that you guys can do to better your band's performance?
I think it's again over the years. I think it. I've tried this, I tried that, but now I try to find inspiration in subtle things. Actually, just sometimes watching younger musicians, just to keep it within the realm. You get inspired. You're like, man, for younger bands, and they're performing, and I'm fortunate enough that because we play so often throughout the year, we get to see hundreds of bands come play along with us, and you can get inspired by a lot of these guys, because that idea that rock is dead and all that kind of stuff, it's dead for those guys that made millions years ago, but it's not dead in the everyday musician's life and in the local and regional scenes that you're seeing these bands. So I sometimes draw some inspiration from that. Sometimes unplugging and not listening to metal, and listening to other styles of music can kind of reset you and give you a fresh perspective. So that's something I've been doing. I mean, not, to go back to what I said, something about Neil Diamond earlier, like the last couple months, I've been doing a deep dive into a lot of his stuff, just to kind of understand more about his songwriting approach. Because maybe I'm at a stage where I can understand it a little better than I would have 25 years ago, 30 years ago. And then I bring that back to what we're doing. And I find that to be an inspiration. And in recent years, my band has just started to do some cover songs. Like we just kind of avoided them like the plague. And I never got into playing music to play other people's music. Even today, even though we do a couple cover songs, I'd be hard pressed to be able to get through anybody's song other than my own. Even that I'm sometimes struggle with. So, but I've actually found some inspiration in that. When learning these people's songs, and sometimes we're doing songs that are not in our style of playing personally, or even in the vein of the type of music that we do. Like going back to the Osmonds, like we did Crazy Horses last year. We did our style of it. We wanted it to be just a little heavier. And I learned so much from that I was able to use those techniques into newer material that we were writing for our band. So I think the older you get, you realize that inspiration is everywhere. I know I sound hokey at this point, but it really is. We try to not, when when COVID hit, we were in the UK, and our tour was pretty much cut off. We lost our flight. We were literally sitting without a flight home. Thankfully we were able to get one, or otherwise we would have been stuck there at least another 4 months. That would have been a nightmare for sure. But
God, how long were you stuck there?
Well, we were actually, because we were stuck there for 2 extra days, and then at the time Trump said we have to get everybody out by Tuesday of that coming week. So we waited online, literally online, on phone, for 27 hours to get a flight home. So we got the last flight out of the UK, and that was in March, and there wasn't another flight until May. So unfortunately we only got a couple dates into the tour, and then everything else was canceled, of course. But we were going to go as long as we could, but they shut us out pretty quick after they said that they were closing off borders. Anyway, when we got back, everybody was complaining about, like, what are we going to do? And after a couple of weeks, we started looking at things like, let's not look at what we don't have. Let's look at what we can do from what we have. And we've been carrying that over the last couple of years. So we keep looking at, well, what do we have? And right now it's kind of the same thing. Like, venues are still closing. it's getting harder to book shows because there's more bands and there's less places to play.
Right.
So you got like, you know, you have 5 venues in a regional area, and you have 40,000 bands trying to book, you know, Friday and Saturday nights. Well, and they only book, you know, 3 to 5 bands per night. So you got tens of thousands of bands sitting around not doing anything. So we keep looking at stuff like, hey, what can we do with what we have? So we're finding inspiration there, and then moving forward. We're not making the big leaps and bounds like we were pre-COVID, but we're still kind of, you know, moving along. So we've been fortunate enough for that. I know that was a long way around to your question.
I know that.
No, you're good.
That works.
Okay.
We love stories. Absolutely. If you have, like, for it, what's the funniest story you got?
On tour.
Oh yeah, sorry. Should have clarified. What's the funniest tour story you got?
I don't know. I'm not a funny guy, but I don't know. When we were in Germany, we were in Olenberg, and we did a show. We parked in a parking garage. I don't know how funny this is, but we parked in a parking garage, and we had unloaded, parked in a parking garage. We did the show. We come out at like 1 a.m. or something like that, 1:30 a.m. to find that the parking garage was completely closed, and and there's no one around. Like the town just shut down, and we're standing in the middle of Germany, locked out, no car. We only had some of our equipment, so we had to run back. Somebody was still at the venue, thankfully. And again, I don't know how funny this is, but it was it was like a mob thing. This guy says he calls somebody up. We all go standing out there, and like 20 minutes later, a cabbie comes, and the cab driver has the keys to open up the parking garage, the whole parking garage. So yeah, I mean the venue owner throws him some money and stuff like that, and some beers and stuff like that. And then, you know, and there we are. We're, you know, by that time it was like, I don't know, 3 something in the morning, and that was, you know, kind of weird. But well, I'll tell you what, we were in Belgium, and you may not be able to tell because I'm sitting down, but my band's about the size of the Hobbit. And in Belgium, everyone is so much taller. We literally, to use the urinals there, we had to stand on crates. And the other thing is the bathrooms over there are male and female. So we're standing at the urinals on crates trying to go to the bathroom, and there's females coming behind you to use the stalls, and it's just really odd. We got off stage in Germany. We played like a festival in Hagen, and we get off stage, and this guy, I mean, like gigantic. He goes, "You play like much larger men." And we're looking up at him, and we're not exactly sure. We assumed it was a compliment, but again, given his size, we were like, "Hey, thanks." You know, if you ever seen I'm sure you've seen the Lord of the Rings in the first one, the Fellowship of the Ring, when Mary and whatever
Pippin.
the other, yeah, Pippin. They're held. You know what I mean? They're prisoners of, you know, and then the humans come and they start fighting those creature things, and you know, and you see them on screen and they're like that little, and that's us. And then with the guy standing next to us.
Go ahead, Mosh. I know you're just fucking waiting because I seen your face light up the minute he said Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, fuck, here comes the tangent.
So, like, if you have you seen all the movies of the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit?
I have.
You have? What's your favorite one?
I like the second one, the Two Towers. I think that's one's really cool.
See, mine was the Return of the King.
Okay.
I got chills on that last battle, and it was just fucking amazing. Like Aragorn just sitting here, just looks back and just says for Frodo, and just takes off fucking running like, let's go. Yep.
Cool.
Are you happy?
Yeah. I'm happy.
CB's down there.
Yep.
All right, CB, you up?
So, are you a morning person or are you a night person?
I'm a morning person. I get up I get up 5 every morning, and I do my my routine and stuff like that. I mean, playing out, you become a night person, but I've always hated it. I'm usually like if I'm not out or recording or playing at a show, I'm starting to nod off. I'm starting to nod off at like 8:30. I mean, I'm a homebody. You know what I mean? I prefer to start my day early. I like the quietness of the morning. I like that there's nobody around. I like driving early because there's no idiots on the road.
Right.
And I really enjoy when they do the time change and the sun comes up at 5:30. It makes you feel like you're alive. And there's some exciting moments in that quiet, peaceful time, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I'm the only one of all of my friends that I'm a morning person. Everybody else is up late as fuck all goddamn night long, and my ass is like 10:30. I'm like, God damn, I can't do it. Like midnight.
You can't run on 4 hours of sleep no more.
Midnight is like hardcore partying for me. If I'm up till midnight.
Unless it's playing Destiny, right?
I've only made it past midnight like once playing Destiny. Thank you very fucking much.
We done it like 1 or 2 times. Like
my ass was asleep by 11 o'clock last night. You lying motherfucker.
Maybe not last night. I mean, we've been playing a lot of Destiny lately.
You know what? That don't matter. But no, my old ass is fucking in goddamn bed by usually like 11 o'clock at the fucking latest. Personally, I like to make it like 10:30 is usually my cutoff date.
I can't go to the movies past 6 o'clock. Like I mean, it's either matinee or one of those early, like 6 o'clock, 6:30 shows. Because if I hit one of those after 8 o'clock shows, I never see the goddamn thing. So,
it better be an amazing ass fucking movie because I'll get so goddamn bored. I'll fucking sit there, start playing on my phone, and I'll fucking fall asleep. I'm not a big movie guy at all. I'm not a big TV guy at all. Like it's got to be something I'm really, really fucking into for me to be able to focus long enough on it to do it.
Trying to get this guy to actually pick a different game other than Destiny and Madden is just. Whew, it's a chore.
You can go straight to hell because of How about that? All right, if you could spend the day with any musician, any famous musician, dead, live, doesn't matter. Who would you spend the day with and why?
Wow. I mean, I think there'd be a couple people, but I think I'd do Dee Snider from Twisted Sister one because he's amped 100% all the time, and I think that there would be a lot of craziness that would happen, like because he'd be jumping from thing to thing, and he's got a story like he's like a comeback kid type story, like twice, and that's pretty interesting that he's been able to turn his career around multiple times, and be more successful each time. So I would like to, maybe shadow him and see how that happens. Because I don't know him per se. And, I've always been a fan of his, but always had the fear that of meeting him, he would want to beat me up because he seemed like that kind of guy. But he seems to get along with a lot of people. He also doesn't get along with a lot of people, but, he's always, I think there could be something there to learn once you get past that, the shtick.
No, so I'm not a big fan of Twisted. For some reason, I don't know. I was born in the early 80s and I grew up listening to 80s. I was always really more of a fan. Like my favorite band growing up was Motorhead. I was a huge fucking Motorhead fan. So I obviously like the heavier stuff, Black Sabbath. I really didn't get into like the hair metal or the arena rock or any of that stuff. It just really never appealed to me. but I did get into D. Snyder because of his film. He did a horror film called Strangeland.
Strangeland, yeah.
And that fucking movie is phenomenal. And that damn fucking soundtrack is amazing, because that soundtrack led me down a rabbit hole of finding out about so many fucking heavy ass bands. Well, if that soundtrack had never existed, I would have never found Cold Chamber. That's how I discovered Cold Chamber, was that, and the fucking band Bile, which are like industrial metal fucking legends. You know, I would have never known about these bands had it not been for that soundtrack, which he put together himself. I think Marilyn Manson was on that soundtrack. There was a lot of fucking amazing ass fucking bands on that soundtrack. So if you've not seen Strangeland, go watch it, because it is a good movie. He directed it, he wrote it, he acted in it. He did a fucking phenomenal job on the whole fucking thing. Whole thing. I'll get off my soapbox now. All right, Mark, go.
All right. Well, like, given the fact that he started one of his rants and stuff like that, because there's certain things that you can get him to start ranting on. So, are you Star Wars?
Don't start your shit. Oh my
God. You Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh, don't worry, Jagz, it's coming.
I'm actually both. I grew up with Star Trek originally, of course, in reruns and then the cartoon, because when I was a kid. But when Star Wars hit, like, you know, in '77, it changed a lot for me, and things that I wanted to do or experience and things like that. But I've always been a Star Trek fan as well. So I go both. I do both. I mean, that, you know, I know there's that divide, but I think Star Wars has a little bit more of that the fantasy guilty pleasure type of thing, where Star Trek is, for me at least, it's more intellectual.
We have heard that answer quite a few times as well. And yeah, he don't like it.
I get what he's saying. I grew up in that realm of fuck Trekkies. We're all about Star Wars. Like, literally, I am. If you ever watched the movie fucking Fanboys, I am that fucking fanboy that's been like, let's screw the fucking Trekkies, fuck them. It's all about Star Wars.
Yeah. No, listen, you know, I mean, I don't remember hearing the Trekkies thing until maybe like the early '90s, but I never really considered myself a Trekkie type of guy.
Right.
I don't know, like, you know, I mean, I think out of, like, Next Generation definitely is probably my favorite, and I've watched it multiple times over and over and over again. I think that in recent years there hasn't, it, you know, like they blew the first season of Picard, in my opinion. Second season, you know, what they did in the third season, they should have did all along. I liked Discovery, the half of the first season, and then it went someplace else that I was just not interested in. Though, you know, Strange New Worlds, I think, is amazing, and I hope that they don't blow that. And I also like the Prodigy thing, and I don't know why they took that off, because I thought that was really cool. But for Star Wars, listen, you know, the problem with Star Wars fans is that, you know, it's going to suck and you still watch it. And I think Disney's killing it right now. Like, they're just destroying the franchise. They're taking a lot of it away. That, you know, and I've always asked myself, was it really that good? Or was it just good for the time and because of the age and how it hit the, you know, the world? Because sometimes you go back over some movies and you go, man, it really wasn't as good as I remember. But Star Wars, I think, holds up as a, you know, even not just as a series, but as a standalone too. I think it holds up. It has all the elements. Though I don't think that they're doing too good of a job giving that same impact that it had, at least those first three movies.
There's a lot of it I love, and there's very, very little of it I don't like. I did not like Andor. I didn't like the series Andor. I was
did. I did.
Mandalorian, I fucking loved. Ahsoka, I loved. I've loved most of the movies. I don't really think there's a movie. I think there's some things they could have done differently. I didn't really like The Acolyte. I watched it. I was like, It didn't feel like Star Wars to me. It felt more like fucking weird fucking rendition of The Matrix. I don't know. I just didn't really dig it. And yeah, I was hoping that they were going to go with like some older Sith characters. Like I was hoping to see like maybe, Darth Plagueis in it, or a young fucking Palpatine, and maybe bring some of the old Republic, Sith in, like Revan or Malik or something like that. But it just never happened. And I was heartbroken.
Disappointed.
I read an article that the director had said that she had this story for years that she wanted to bring to light. And I think she took her story and they just kind of plopped it into the Star Wars universe, hoping that that would be enough to really get the momentum going. But I agree with you. It just didn't feel like Star Wars at all. And the same with that Skeleton Crew.
I have not watched Skeleton Crew yet.
Then I won't say
I'm gonna watch it because I'm a Star Wars fan, how it is through and through. I'm gonna watch it and then I'll make up my decision. But like I loved, and actually some of my favorite was the animated series.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I loved Clone Wars. I loved it. I loved the Bad Batch.
Yeah,
loved the Bad Batch. I was very heartbroken when they ended it after season 3.
Me too.
So, I even liked Star Wars Rebels. It was great.
Yep.
So yeah, I was all fucking about it.
Yeah, I agree. The animation on those three, the writing on them was good, and it was dark. And I think that it really showed the other side of what we were looking at in terms of the Star Wars universe. So yeah, I wish they could bring some of that to the live action stuff that they're doing. But
agreed. All right, so flipping back over to some music stuff. If you could change one thing in the music industry, what would you change?
Oh man, I don't know.
That's a tough question.
Yeah, it is a tough question because, nowadays, there is no such thing as being plucked out of obscurity anymore. I don't think we've seen that in a lot of years. I'm not to say that it can't happen, but I don't think that in the mainstream artery of music, regardless of genre, whatever that mainstream section is of that genre, I don't think it exists anymore. At least not here in the States. I think that that underground thing that's exactly what it is now. It is not again, back in the 80s, even in the early 90s, there was a lot of artists coming out of that underground. For here, in the Philly, New Jersey, New York area, when thrash was starting to really come through, in 85, 86, 87, that was the underground for a lot of people. And those bands, they still hold a certain precedence today, even though they may not have made it like the Anthraxes or the Slayers or that. Overkill's been around longer than some of these bands, but they only got so far. But they hold a certain kind of level of appreciation to the artist, and I don't think that exists the same way. Nowadays, and I've talked about this to some other people, like with all these freaking Facebook groups and stuff, it's kind of, some people go, well, that's kind of like our underground now. Well, yeah, it is, and it's not. You just got a bunch of people bitching about it, and it's not really about the music. And again, the music it's The music did all the talking, and people kind of gathered around and supported it. Now it's, you know, like, you know, mine's better than yours type of thing, and it just doesn't work that way. So I think that maybe if we could get back to that underground type of mentality, I think that you would see a shift. And the shift isn't going to happen unless artists and fans hand in hand make that shift. Like, everybody bitches about Spotify and what they're doing, and, you know, these recent numbers that now, if you don't make 1,000 streams, that money goes into a pot, and then it's distributed between the, you know, the top 10% tier of, like, Taylor Swift and stuff that, you know, that are making most of the streams. So that means, like, all these independent underground artists are actually making money for an artist that doesn't need to make any more money than what they're doing with their own stuff. I think that would shift if we got together and say we could do this, right? It's like that one shark, but there's a million little schools of fish. We just don't realize that if we're stronger together, and until we make
that there's a lot of that going around.
Yeah, because if you, I agree with you. If you could get rid of that competitiveness, and it's like I tell everybody, in this day of age, it's all about who you know, and in that, it's all about networking.
Right.
Network. You be nice to everyone. You talk to everyone. You reach out to everyone. And especially other bands. If you're in a band, your greatest asset is to go out there and make friends with all the other bands.
Yep.
Because if you're sitting there fucking making enemies, you're just going to cause problems. All this drama and bullshit fighting over shows and all that shit, that just kills your fucking scene. That's why a lot of places around where I live, there used to be scenes, there's not anymore. There's not. All the bars got tired of it, got tired of the fist fights, got tired of the drama. They shut the shit down. There's no more shows. For me to go to a local show, local is Jacksonville, Florida, which is 2.5 hours from me. That's the closest place that I can go to a local show, because there is no local scene here at all. Because they all destroyed it with all their fucking bickering and fighting and trying to fucking make money off of the local scene, and promoters fucking the bands, and everybody's trying to fuck everybody, and it just completely destroyed it. It destroyed it. And that's what people don't fucking understand. If you just shut the fuck up and be friends and stop fucking worrying about whether the band is actually better than you or not, who gives a fuck? Just get up there on the goddamn stage, shut your fucking mouth, and play. That's it. That's all you gotta do. Play, be friends, and play, and have a good time. That's it. And you have no idea what you would be able to accomplish if you were to do that. But too many people won't do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the sad part. All right, Mello, you're up.
So, are you an iPhone or an Android fan?
I'm an Android guy. I did do an iPhone for a while, and it would not sync with any of my emails. I had to update, and then they forced me out of the phone, and so yeah, I'm not a. I've been an Android guy now for a lot of years. So I gave the iPhone a chance, and I never bought into it. So
I mean, like, all right. So this kind of plays into another question, though. What was your very, very, very first phone? Besides, what was your very first cell phone?
My very first cell phone was out here. It was from Bell Atlantic, and it was about that big. It looked like a mini walkie-talkie, you know. It was like that, and you had to have basically like a friggin' holster, you know, on the side. But yeah, that was my first one. I don't know what the model number is, but it was like a walkie-talkie. It was about that big. You had to pull up the antenna
and as a weapon.
It's like what I call the Jurassic Park phones.
Yeah.
The Jurassic Park in the car. My grandmother had one. She had a back when I was in school, she had a Nissan Maxima, and she had a car phone.
Oh,
it was in the middle console, and it was this gigantic, fucking big ass antenna honking thing that you could probably fucking knock somebody out with it. Because that thing was like a fucking tank of a phone. I couldn't imagine having to sit there and hold and be on a 1 hour phone call holding that massive motherfucker up to the side of your head the whole entire time.
Well, I'll tell you, those bigger phones were easy to do the thing where you just do that. Like you can't do that with these small ones now. They just kind of slip out. But yeah, holding that shit, that just was like, and the speakers were horrible. They were horrible. So the sound in these newer phones is much better for sure.
Yeah, Thomas talking about the Nokia brick. The Nokia brick was my first cell phone.
After that, I went to a Nextel. I don't know if you guys remember them. You know, they had you could do like the
walkie-talkie
radio, yeah. And then from there, I went to a Sony Ericsson, which was like the flip thing, which was like it goes from these big blocks to like this little thing like that.
Yep.
So.
Oh yeah. No, I had the Nokia brick. I had a little accident. I was at the time I was in the apprenticeship program for the electrical union. And I was really young. I was like 20, 19.
Oh, what did you do, stupid?
I electrocuted the fuck out of myself. Fucking zapped off the shit. I fucking had phone in hand, fell back, hit the goddamn ground. That fucking phone smashed on the ground after being electrocuted and dropped. There wasn't a fucking scratch on the
shit.
But if you took one of those phones that we got now and you dropped it from that, shit, the electrocution alone would have fucking fried that motherfucker. Secondly, dropping it from that high, it would have been in goddamn 50,000 pieces. You would have been sweeping that shit up with a push broom. Ain't gonna happen. All right, CB, you're up with the last question before we play some of their music and get the hell out of here.
All right. So with all the upcoming new bands and the kids getting into music and wanting to be in this industry, what is some of the advice that you'd give somebody who's just getting into this industry?
My grandfather always told me, be a doctor, lawyer, or undertaker. This way you can get them coming and going. That's what I think I would tell people. But if you're really going to go into doing this, I think that the best thing to do is to be yourself and be true to yourself. Don't try to be or do something that's not in your heart. The example is like, we do traditional throwback heavy metal with a modern twist, right? And because that's what resonates well with us. I could probably write a thrash album, but I couldn't sustain that. And I think a lot of artists try to fit into this mold whatever that mold is at the time, or that someone says, "Hey, you should do this," or they see bands doing it. The thing is if it's not sustainable for what works well for you, it's going to be short lived. And I've met many musicians over the years, artists, bands that like every 6 to 8 months they're changing groups, or they're changing their sound, or they revamp this because they're just trying to fit into what's happening. And I get it, you know what I mean? Because it's so competitive. You want people to appreciate or pay attention to what you're doing. But I think that if you want to really stand out, being true to yourself, doing what works best for you, even if that is a little maybe, to the left or to the right, I think will hold up better over time, because you'll have consistency and quality in what you do. And I know, because we're so niche that oftentimes people don't know what the hell to do with us. When this band started, like, there was nobody, especially in this area and the region that we were playing, doing what we were doing. And again, being old school, we called ourselves heavy metal. And people were like, you're not heavy metal. And I'm like, well, yeah, we kind of are. Nah, you're not really heavy metal. I mean, even if you do a search on Google, I think it says that we're hard rock, and we're really
seen that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we are, You know, maybe we are. I don't know, but we've stayed pretty consistent to what we've been doing, and I think that's been the thing that keeps us going, because we're true to our sound, and we're true to the model that we put together, and there's an appreciation that comes over time with that. And I think that's what new artists need to do today. Don't try, if you don't fit into the mold, then create your own mold, right? If there's not a title for you, create your own title. If there's not a job, you create the job. That's the best I can tell you.
Thank you.
That's
That's
good.
great advice.
Hey, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. So on that, for all y'all watching, please go check out Corners of Sanctuary on all the social media platforms. Go check out their music everywhere that music can be had, because every band's got their stuff out there. On that, hang around. We're actually going to play one of their songs right now. This is a song called Never Count Me Out. On that, we are out of here. We love you guys. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Mick, for joining us tonight. We will be back tomorrow night with another band. And until then, see you later.
Be safe.
Good night.